Hello and welcome to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host, and it is that joyful time again, time for the Flannel Panel, where we gather to do the news of the day from a Catholic perspective. Two magnificent guests here. First of all, the president of Catholic Answers, Chris Check. Hello, Chris Check.
Apparently, it's not time for Flannel Panel because
I'm cold, so I put a hoodie over my flannel.
What do you?
He's lying to you flagrantly.
That's not a flannel shirt.
A person forgets their flannel some days.
On Flannel Panel Day?
It's literally hanging
like
on the back of my door so that I won't forget it on the way out. But it'll be there when I get home. Yeah, I forgot my flannel today. I apologize, gentlemen. I forgot to wear my flannel.
I forgot to pack a flannel. You know what I did?
You went out and bought one
Went to
today?
the Salvation Army and bought one for $7.
Oh, this one right here in
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That is Joe Heschmeyer.
As someone pointed out, probably an easier place to get a flannel in the middle of the summer than in like a normal department store.
The thing is, I made a mistake. I went to a regular store, and there was not a flannel in sight. Joe Heschmeyer, apologist here at Catholic Answers, and also the author of many books, including his new one, of which we are very, very proud. The Eucharist is really Jesus, how Christ's body and blood are the key to everything we believe. Joe Heschmeyer.
I think this is the first time we've announced it on the show, right?
Is this the first time?
I think that might be.
And there it is. I'm holding it up for the camera.
I just physically got a copy yesterday for the first time.
Well, congratulations on the beautiful book.
Thank you.
And excellent timing because there's a whole Eucharistic revival being prayed for now. So congratulations on the whole deal.
I want to give a shout out to the marketing department or whoever designed the actual cover. It has a little bit of what's called spot gloss. And so it's a little shiny.
That's an industry term.
Yeah.
Wow.
Spot gloss.
I've been in the industry a long time, and I've never heard the term spot gloss.
You're more in the talky part of the industry than the looky part.
I was in the print part of it for...
Oh, yeah, you did that one book.
No, I was the editor of the diocesan newspaper in San Diego.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of glossy newspapers?
No, but you do some
It would
glossy
explain
stuff.
the state of the newspaper industry if that's what the money was being spent on.
We didn't do any newspapers after the settlements, but... ouch. But tell us what the spot gloss is and why you like it.
Yeah,
because
so
it is actually important to the book.
Like the image, I don't know if you can see it on the screen for those who are watching.
Cannot.
But it's Jesus at the Last Supper, and there's an image, like an outline of a monstrance, and overlaid, and the inside where Jesus' face is glossy. And so it really draws the eye, and it's a very beautiful image. And so it really captures the idea that it's the Eucharist and that it's Jesus present in the Eucharist.
Was that our own Shane that designed that?
I know he at least was the one who argued for spot gloss. So
he was in the meeting fighting
he's
for
the
you.
one from whom I know the term spot gloss.
All right, so what we do for Flannel Panel is we wear flannel shirts and we talk about the news of the day.
Wait a minute. Some of us do. Some of us follow the rules.
Breathe. Okay, yes, I failed. All right, where's your compassion and your mercy, Chris Check, president
I'm super abundant of both.
You are super abundant of both. Well, congratulations on that.
And mercy.
I'm super abundant in my hoodie today. But we talk about the news of the day from a Catholic perspective.
No amount of mercy from me can change the fact that you didn't.
That I blew it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
I can't.
That's true. No amount of mercy can change that. But I got a little special thing for you.
Glory.
This time. At the Flannel Panel, I don't know if you know the full origins, Joe, of the Flannel Panel, but a few years ago we decided that we would do an end-of-year survey of our listeners to ask about the big stories, the big personalities, what the pro-life victories of the year were, all that kind of stuff. And our listeners were kind enough to fill out those surveys. And then we would have Chris would come in and Todd and Tim Ryland would come in, Tim Staples would come, various people would come in, and we'd discuss it. And that's how we started doing panel shows. And then you got here, and it was like a dream. You fit into the panel just like a dream.
I assumed it was more like you needed two people to counterbalance me, just so I wouldn't take things totally off course.
That is not at all the case. As a matter of fact, you're the one who has provided the good sense. But now,
I think what he was going to say, what he was going to say is that two people were required to match his intellectual.
Yeah, I think that's what he meant.
Exactly.
That's probably what he meant.
And I'm pretty sure that's what he was going to say, but he stopped himself midway there.
I've got the prudence of two men.
Yeah.
Well, give it back to them. I'm sure they need it. So you can call if you want, but there's a slight chance we'll get you on the air.
If you do
today.
if you do get on the show, we'll send you a copy of Joe's book.
Yeah, let's do that. 888-318-7884. But you got to talk about what we're talking about. And all that was to say this, that I decided let's try this, because sometimes we get No, actually, every time we get to the end of the year and we ask people to remember the stories of the year and tell us about them, they pretty much tell us the stories that happened in the last 3 months.
Yes. Thanksgiving and beyond.
Right. We do not have a long memory in the modern world. So I decided let's do a halfway one. So we're doing a half year in review today. I polled the members of the Catholic Answers Radio Club. They came out by their hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, I can say, and answered our survey. And I will share the results with you today, and we'll discuss what the big stories of the first half of the year were.
I can't wait.
Is that really true?
It's going to
Can't
be.
wait?
This is going to be a great couple of hours.
I'm willing to wait.
You're willing? All right. Well, you just do that. Our first question, and by the way I did it this time because I thought it would be easier on the listener. Actually, we had a lot of multiple choice questions.
I saw the questions because I'm
Because you took it, 'cause you're a member of
I'm a
Society
member of the
315.
radio club.
And I took the survey as well because
But
I'm
I
a member
can,
of
but I
Society
can
315.
testify to what you did observe earlier. I've completely forgotten what the questions were.
Yes. Well,
I don't remember having received the email, so that tells you, I think, the state of things.
I don't think you belong to the radio
I
club.
probably don't.
Yeah.
I'm in Society 315. How many clubs do we have?
more than well, how much money does it pay to keep you on the air,
Yeah,
Joe?
fair enough.
Which of these stories was most on your mind in the first half of 2023? So let me just ask you this: if someone just asked you that, what Catholic story was most on your mind in the last 6 months? What might you say? Or Catholic or related to Catholicism. It doesn't have to be just a Catholic story.
I mean, there've been a lot of
a
good
pro-life story, a
stories.
Christian
Right.
story. Either of you have a story that sticks out as
It's funny when Joe says pro-life. I don't think of that as an exclusively Catholic story. I guess in some sense.
No.
No, but there's certainly
yeah.
a Catholic dimension. I mean,
Sure.
what part of reality isn't Catholic?
Right. All. If it's true, it belongs to us.
Right.
As Justin Martyr said.
all right. So
I'm coming up short because all the stuff I'm thinking of happened last year. So I'm actually having the opposite problem. I'm thinking of like Dobbs.
Cardinal Pell died.
was
that
the
was-
first half of this year?
Yeah,
we
that was
were on.
Yeah, I guess
that was in January. I'll give you some hints.
please.
There was a synod and synodality, or there is a synod, Eucharistic
Joe
revival.
has been paying very close attention to the synod on synodality.
There was some attacks on the
I don't know what
sacrament
you
of
mean by that.
confession. There was that Asbury University, that Holy Spirit
Oh, yeah, the
revival thing that
revival.
happened.
That was fascinating.
Pope Benedict's funeral was this year.
Oh, yeah, he died
Yeah,
just
right.
more than 6 months ago, though.
Cardinal
right?
Pell died. Church persecutions in China, Nigeria, Nicaragua. That's been going on. German
India.
bishops. You could pick your German
Yeah,
bishop story,
yeah.
but German bishops losing also. Father Frank Pavone was laicized.
There are a lot of stories.
There was an incorrupt nun in Missouri that you did a really good episode
Oh,
on.
thank you.
Bishops suggesting other bishops were committing heresy. All of these things happened.
Yeah, there were, I believe in Uganda, there were 42 children martyrs.
I did not know that, Joe. Tell me about that.
A group of Muslim extremists came into a school and butchered the children who died for the faith.
Good Lord.
And then, of course,
Wow.
we had the canonization or beatification of those Coptic martyrs here, but that was more recently.
Was
That was in the second half of this year,
or last year?
No, excuse me. No, that was
It'll-
just what? It was a couple of months ago or a month or two ago,
They were just canonized.
or beatified.
No, I think they were canonized. I think
Oh,
they're saints.
yeah.
But they were made saints twice, once in the Coptic Church and once in the Catholic Church. So,
This is an interesting list, and a lot of these are tied together by some obvious unrest in the church right now.
right.
Yes.
The one that was probably still on my mind was the constraining of the use of the Latin Mass, but of course that's
That's kind of an ongoing story. Yeah.
but that is
'Cause
that's from last year.
Yeah, but the booster
Right.
came in
The booster.
in
In December. That's
there
right.
was the quashing of the Latin Mass and then the booster quash that happened in December.
There is a term for that.
What's it called?
Booster. There's a term for that letter. What is it, Joe?
A rescript.
It
the
is a
rescript.
rescript.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of those,
I like booster better, though.
I'm going to
That's
give you
better.
this. I'm going to give you the percentages on those stories before we go to the break. The synod and synodality, that was the top story for about 9%.
Oh, okay.
About 9%. The Eucharistic pilgrimages and revival, that was the top story for about 14%. The states attacking the sacrament of confession, that was a little less than 9%. The Asbury University, 3%. So the Holy Spirit
Well,
gets
I mean,
low
if
play.
he's going to work with Protestants.
But he does work with
I'm
Protestants.
joking.
The funeral of Pope Benedict, that was about 5%. Cardinal Pell's death, that was not a big story. A little less than 2% said that was their main thing. Church persecution, about 13%. Father Frank Pavone, laicized. What do you think the percentage on that was? Any guesses?
It was a big thing when it was going on.
Yeah,
It's not a big thing anymore.
7%?
6.5. Nicely done. The sister in Missouri who's
It was more recent. I'm going to say 12% on that.
it was only 5%.
I'm
but maybe that's
biased
because it was so
she was
recent.
close. She was close to me. So.
Bishops suggesting heresy was 8%.
Oh, that's such an easy
The
one.
biggest story that most people were concerned about was 25%. 1/4 of people said this was bugging them.
Was this something involving politics?
It was German bishops affirming
okay.
same-sex blessings.
Okay.
That really bothered people, as you'll see as we go through the rest of the survey.
So again, the church in unrest. Something else about this list is so you mentioned the school where there was the sort of the charismatic prayer thing that went on for several
Asbury?
days.
Yeah.
Asbury. And then also the incorrupt or evidently incorrupt body of the foundress of the Benedictines of Mary Queen of Apostles in Gower, Missouri. And those are both in the single digits among our listeners. And to me, that's interesting. Is that just a sort of a Catholic reticence about the supernatural until, we have some declaration or some official statement or
Yeah.
do we just tend to be skeptical of these things as Catholics?
I don't know.
I think there's more of a sticking power to bad news than good news. This is an unfortunate part of human psychology.
And so maybe people are just admitting that sticks in my mind.
The German
If you ask
bishops,
them what's
the
on your
German
mind,
bishops is a scandalous thing.
It is,
It's a big
absolutely.
bad scandal. It really is. But to me, the presence of an incorrupt, and I believe she's an incorrupt, in our country, is extraordinary.
right.
This is bigger
Yeah.
than the heterodoxy of the German bishops.
So it does have the flavor of, although this will not be a very accurate description, but it has the flavor of God will give you a miracle and you'll still be more upset about the German bishops than you'll be interested in the miracles.
I kind of feel like we're the Jews in the desert,
Yeah, complaining and fussing and
Yeah.
all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it is a universal. I mean, and that's part of the human psyche. That's part of who we are. And I don't dismiss that the German bishops thing is a big one. That's a
Yeah,
that's a
And
big
by
one.
the way, if I were in Germany, obviously that would be. We talked about this on a previous flannel panel, and then I think we even got some remarks on social about it. But I can't imagine trying to live life as a faithful Catholic in Germany.
I know. I mean, I've mentioned them before, but I've got family who live in Germany, and they're trying to live life
Yeah.
as faithful
Yeah.
Catholics.
I
And
feel like maybe we should get some interviews with some people who.
I'd be,
trying to
if you want to fly me over, I'm happy to do it.
You really? You're,
I
you're
know
willing
some,
to go
I
to
know
Germany
some
if we
English
send you?
speakers.
Well,
They have this
You're a virtual
technology
saint,
now.
Joe.
The
Have you ever
virtual
heard of
part is doing
Zoom?
a lot of work there.
Yeah, because you do wonder because the only reporting you get seems like madness. It seems like you get that reporting in the Pillar, like one bishop will vote against blessing
Yes.
same-sex marriage, and all these lay people want to kill that bishop.
Right.
And you feel like it's like a Frankenstein movie or something. That can't be the whole story. In other
Yeah,
words.
I mean, the stories I'm hearing on the ground are in some cases even worse. Which
Oy.
is just that,
Good Lord.
because parishes go beyond what the bishops do, and so you have to imagine if the bishops are this crazy, then just imagine
what's parish life
yeah,
like?
exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine the edgy parish in town and what they're doing.
Yeah. Right.
And just how difficult it is for people who are actually trying to live Catholic lives to even understand how to do that.
Right. Trying to live the Catholic faith as it was lived and assumed that it should be lived even 10 or 15 years ago is becoming a Herculean task for Germans, it would seem. So I don't deny that that's a big story, but it is interesting that a miracle, what appears to be a miracle, gets a very low number.
I'm at pains now not to give our listeners the impression that I'm a naturally joyful person, or
I don't think anyone who's listening
you're
to this
safe on that.
is
You're
at
safe.
risk.
You're safe. They know you well enough, Chris.
I am as guilty of the pessimism as anybody. But I know
If you had more
well-
buoyancy, you'd be a bouncing check.
That's Joe. That's just a Joe Heschmeyer thing. You
Yeah.
can't. If you ignore it, it happens
still
anyway.
gonna
So
He's
you-
done
yeah.
better.
Right.
But I have
I've
a
done worse,
friend.
though, in fairness.
I have a friendship with those nuns in Gower, and so I perhaps that causes my excitement to be.
I gotta say though, Chris, I joke about that, and we both joked about your no one's gonna mistake you for bubbly or something like that. But one of the keys of your leadership here, I've told you this before, and I think Joe would agree
Are
with
you
it.
trying
is-
to get a raise?
No. No, wait,
It's
it
too
is
late.
that time of
The
year, right?
budget is
Fiscal
already
year's
done.
about to start.
No,
But
yeah.
I think the thing is, you're always saying to us, don't be disedifying. We're in this for the long haul. We teach the Catholic faith. We don't just go with the controversy of the day. You can get more clicks if you want to do controversy of the day. We don't care about clicks. You never put pressure on us about that.
No.
I mean,
No, in fact, we have to be vigilant not to be chasing clicks.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and I think this survey, if nothing else, points to that even among our own listeners, it's the stuff that's really negative and scandalous and shocking and outrageous that sticks with us.
although I got some good
And
news.
I'm no different, by
There
the way.
is
I'm not-
there
I'm
is
not
good
saying it
news
in
ahead in
judgment.
this.
Okay.
Your
in this
survey
poll.
must
There
have
is good-
gone out before the blasphemy and sacrilege at Dodger Stadium.
It did. Yes, that's right. It did. Yeah, we didn't.
The inartful Dodgers.
Right. I'll tell you what, we got to take a quick break. We'll take that break. We'll be right back. We'll continue with our mid-year survey of our listeners and get reactions from Chris Check and Joe Heschmeyer on the flannel panel right after this on Catholic Answers Live.
Catholic Answers Live.
Do you have a question but prefer to ask it privately? Catholic Questions can help. Go to CatholicQuestions.com to ask your question online, email us, drop us a letter, or give us a call. Longtime Catholic Answers Live apologist and author Jim Blackburn or another Catholic Questions apologist will be happy to assist you. Catholic Questions proudly supports Catholic Answers Live, so visit us at CatholicQuestions.com today. That's CatholicQuestions.com.
Hi friends, Janet Williams here. Join me every Wednesday on Women of Grace Live as I welcome New Age researcher and blogger for Women of Grace, Sue Brinkman. Sue and I will be talking about all the wacky things that could distract you from your faith. Psychics, yoga, Reiki, crystals, acupuncture, Ouija boards, tarot cards, and astral traveling are just a few of the stranger things we discuss. That's why we call it Wacky Wednesday. So join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Chris Check in the studio with us. Joe Heschmeyer in the studio. It's Flannel Panel, and we're talking about the news. It's our half-year review of the news. Our half-year review, we polled our listeners, asked them what they thought the big stories of the year were, and we're just sharing that right now.
It's like Christmas in July. Sorry, real quick. I'm
not
going
July
to
yet.
totally hijack this.
Oh, yeah.
But the end of the year thing just reminded me. Like, we should do this liturgically around, if you've got Christmas, you also have the birth of John the Baptist.
Yeah.
My brother lives in Spain, and on the night before the feast of John the Baptist, you know what they do?
What?
They do two things. One of which is amazing, one of which is bizarre, and I don't understand it. This is also northern Spain. I have no idea if this is how regional this is.
Is it the Basque influence or something?
Probably.
Yeah.
He's in Basque Country. And so
yeah.
I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to call it Spain. You know, the Spanish-controlled Basque territory. They gather all of the negative things from the prior year. So that includes bills and things. And they put them in a giant bonfire.
Good for
They
them.
burn them.
I like that one.
I
Yeah.
thought, this is why you had a financial crisis. You're burning your bills.
But that's one way to deal with the bills.
Yeah.
Was that the bizarre one? Or
No,
that was
that's
the
the
good
normal one. The other
Okay.
one, they hit each other with pig bladders, and I don't understand what that sport is about. But that's one
Joe,
other way
you
of
just don't
festivity.
understand fun.
Yeah,
You just don't
apparently so.
understand
This is-
good old Basque fun.
Yeah, I
all
guess
right?
they probably think the same thing about football.
Sourpuss. Yeah, right.
Pigskins, come
Right.
on.
One of the great things about working here at Catholic Answers, I've said it again and again, and is the people that visit us. We have some wonderful men here from Exodus 90. If you don't know about Exodus 90, it's a fantastic, I don't know, a program, a process, a community. You could probably call it all of those things. You can find out all about it at exodus90.com. But what a wonderful group of men and what a wonderful undertaking. So thank you all for coming in.
You know, so the guys from Exodus 90, what they really are doing, and I know they're helping men and women, but my perspective is obviously from the
Extremely masculine side.
my pronouns are he, him, him.
He, him.
So they're holding up that monastic ideal that is the ideal of Christian life, and showing us all, those of us who are laity, living in the world, how we can very much live that elements of that monastic ideal in our lives. So, common prayer, asceticism, and self-giving, and then at the heart of it all, of course, liturgy. When I did it, I found the thing that most benefited me, and there are many, was the regular holy hour that is required for this.
Oh,
My
how
friends,
beautiful, yeah.
you know, you hear me say this. When I hear people say that changed my life, I'm always very skeptical. Regular holy hour, life-changing.
So once again, thank you to the gentleman for coming in. We really do appreciate you here, and I hope we'll get to do things together.
Amen.
I would add,
further the work
I
of
think what was
the-
tremendously helpful is having a community of men, like to have
Right.
other guys holding you
Accountability.
accountable and pushing you on.
Yep.
Basil and Gregory on their feast day,
Yeah.
the Office of Readings talks about finding in one another a standard of holiness, and the way these two saints helped one another to become saints just by
that
challenging
something?
each other. And
Well, I remember a Patrice O'Neill joke where he used to say to women,
I feel like you've okay.
no, this is going to be good.
Okay.
He said, he used to say to women, don't feel bad that we don't want to talk to you. We don't want to talk to anybody. And it's kind of a sad reality of modern man. It's a funny joke, but it's kind of a sad reality that we do isolate ourselves. We separate ourselves.
Yeah, it's true. We're less naturally good at the communal aspect of human living, but we need it no less.
Yeah. Right.
We need it more than ever now because, well, we always need it, but there are so many things now that are mitigating against it, or I should say, warring against it.
Yeah.
You know, all of the screens and the isolations that they build. So.
Right. You can get a false community.
Yeah,
with
I mean,
whoever
I
you
know
watch
a
on-
lot of people might like start Exodus 90 and think, okay, this is going to be a good detox for me, but detox isn't even the proper. I mean, there's an element of that for sure, but you're going to grow in holiness and you're going to grow in Christian fraternal friendship.
And you'll be amazed at the stuff that you have time for once you cut out
Oh my
things
gosh,
like
yep.
TV and social media and all the
Yeah, like
computers and all
reading.
that.
That's what
and,
I
and
discovered.
Holy hours
You
and,
kinda-
and things
yeah,
where people say,
yeah.
I'm too busy, blah, blah, blah. You do it for 90 days and think, oh, I guess I wasn't too busy.
Yeah,
I
right.
And by
just
the way, how did I ever live
wasn't
without that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Do we have any call? I heard we have a caller, and I don't. Should I go to?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a caller. So you know what? The flannel panel tends to be isolationist. We isolate ourselves too much. So I'm going to go to a call. Aaron in Hastings, Michigan, watching on YouTube. Could you push line 2 for me? I don't have it up. Aaron, thank you very much for the call. You got a question or a comment for the flannel panel?
Yeah, it's maybe off topic, and I do apologize if it is.
That's
but
the
I was
theme.
actually wondering.
Wait, first of all, Aaron,
I'm
have
sorry?
you been listening? Like, you can't keep these guys on topic if you try. So there's no such thing as off topic with the flannel panel. Say whatever you got, and we'll do it. We'll make mincemeat of it.
Okay, well, I've actually switched to State of Vacantism. And
Okay.
I was actually wondering how is it
We
that
have a seat for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's empty.
We have an empty seat
It's
for
right
you
here.
For that conversation.
I was actually wondering how is it that Pope Francis can be Pope when he's spoken so many heresies? Like, I think the most recent one was, I forget how he worded it, was basically saying that there is no hell or downplaying the role of hell.
I have to admit I missed that one. Maybe Joe is
I
familiar with it.
have heard the rumors of that. So that's a good question. So let's unpack a couple things. Number one, I would encourage you to spend less time reading salacious stories about things Pope Francis may have said. I mean, that is not the nature of what papal infallibility protects. And in this case, the lines are coming from an octogenarian Italian journalist who doesn't take notes, saying that he remembers the Pope telling him there wasn't a hell. But Pope Francis has spoken about hell. He speaks about the devil.
I remember
more-
he warned the mafia,
Yes.
stop or you're going to hell.
Right. So
yeah.
he has spoken very publicly about hell and about the devil many times. But then you've got this guy saying, oh, yeah, I don't think he believes in hell. He told me he didn't. And, I was a lawyer, right? So that would not be admissible evidence. And it'd be hearsay. And the reason you don't accept hearsay is you don't know how reliable the witness is, both in terms of their honesty, but also their recollection, especially in a case like this where the guy's not keeping any notes. So it's not helping Pope Francis that he gives interviews to unreliable journalists who he then doesn't correct the record. But the record has actually been corrected with this particular journalist in the past. Eugene Scalarfi, I believe is his name. So that's one thing, just in the weeds. But the broader thing is twofold. Number one, the Pope may personally fall into heresy. He cannot lead the church into heresy. That's a really important distinction. And you will find theologians who say the Pope can't even personally fall into heresy, but that is not a position that the church dogmatically teaches. So at the very least, we can't say, as a matter of dogma, there can never be a Pope who is personally heretical. And in fact, you have the pretty famous case of Pope Honorius, who was condemned by an ecumenical council for heresy, for not combating heresy enough, even though he doesn't seem to have held to that particular heresy personally. But just that he didn't do enough in fighting it. So that's all of that's to say, well, I think we'll have to get back on the other half of it, but the First Vatican Council is extremely clear that the Roman pontiff is a perpetual office. The Sedevacantism is condemned by Vatican I, not just Vatican II.
Aaron, we'll check back in when we get back on the other side. We have to take a quick break. It's Flannel Panel. Chris Check, Joe Heschmeyer, our guests. We're doing the news of the day from a Catholic perspective.
Want to know more about the origins of the Catholic Church? Joe Heschmeyer explores the beginnings of Christianity in The Early Church Was the Catholic Church. Joe digs deep into the words and actions of those who lived right after the apostles to refute anti-Catholic claims of how the faith was lived back then. Order your copy of The Early Church Was the Catholic Church today at shop.catholic.com or get it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Are you ready to defend your faith in a world of unbelief? Join us at the 9th Annual Catholic Answers Apologetics Conference. This year's theme, I Believe in God, and it'll help you provide clear and charitable answers to atheism, agnosticism, and plain old indifference. Don't miss what promises to be the event of the season. Join us in San Diego from September 21st through 24th as we welcome our special guest, Dr. Scott Hahn, and an all-star lineup of great Catholic speakers. Spend quality time with your favorite Catholic Answers apologists and enjoy 4 days of fun, fellowship, and adoration of the Almighty. Seats are still available, but they're going fast. Visit CatholicAnswersConference.com or call 888-291-8000 to register. Enter promo code EARLY and save $50. That's CatholicAnswersConference.com.
If you're not a Bible scholar, the full message of how the Sunday Mass readings fit together can be tough to comprehend. Apologist Carlo Broussard is here to help. Join Carlo every Friday for the Sunday Catholic Word podcast. In each episode, he unpacks the scripture readings for that Sunday and brings them all together so you can better understand and defend the faith. Visit SundayCatholicWord.com to subscribe. That's SundayCatholicWord.com.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. It's the Flannel Panel. I always look forward to the Flannel Panel because it's a lot of fun to talk with Joe and Chris about the news of the day from a Catholic perspective. A little unusual for us to take calls just because we are so into listening to each other talk that we don't usually, but I'm so happy we got some calls. You can give it a try, 888-318-7884. We're talking with Aaron right now in Michigan about who says he's a Sedevacantist and asking a very direct question. If Pope Francis says things that are heretical, how can he be the Pope? You addressed that.
Yeah.
But
What I wanted to make really clear, and I alluded to it right before the break, is the First Vatican Council in 1870 says very clearly, therefore, if anyone says that it is not by the institution of Christ the Lord himself, that is to say by divine law, that Blessed Peter should have perpetual successors in the primacy over the whole church, or that the Roman pontiff is not the successor of Blessed Peter in this primacy, let him be anathema. So Sedevacantism is explicitly condemned. There will never be a situation where we are just left perpetually without a pope. And so it's not possible. We know that with the clarity of a defined ecumenical council. There are a lot of other things we don't know with that level of clarity, like what did Pope Francis mean by that comment? Did he say that comment? Those sorts of things. So as a matter of basic theological principles, you start with what's clearest. You interpret opaque things in light of clear things. And a very clear thing is that we're not going to be in a situation where we don't have a pope indefinitely. And we're going to have perpetual popes. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have a period. A pope dies and it's a few weeks before you get another one.
Or actually been a few years in some cases.
The longest period is 2 years. That is totally different from saying there have been no popes since Pius XII or no popes since Benedict, or this would be a whole. One of the problems is to have a pope validly, you have to have people who can elect him. And so if you don't believe that there are cardinals and you don't believe there's a pope, then you are in a situation where you're left with the kind of perpetual lack of head that we're promised won't ever happen. Because if you understand why the papacy exists, which I cover in my book, Pope Peter, which I'm happy to send him, then you'll understand why we're never going to be in the situation Sede Vacantis claim we're in.
I'll tell you what, if you, I don't know, because Aaron, I know we've sent you books and maybe you have Pope Peter. We're definitely going to send you Joe's new Eucharist book because Chris promised it to anybody who called. If you don't have Pope Peter, we'll send it to you. But we also have a very nice little book called 20 Answers the Papacy we'd like to send you.
And if you want to continue this, if you want to email me at radio@catholic.com, they'll pass it along, and I'd be happy to keep the conversation going if that's something that you're interested in, Aaron.
Aaron, of course, I assume the best of the state of your heart. We've never met, and you're in our prayers. But I'm going to tell you something that I know you know, and that is that schism offends against charity. This is in St. Thomas. And my advice to you, in addition to what Joe said about getting off the internet and quit reading accounts of what the Pope may or may not have said, and he certainly has said plenty of things that I think we can put in the disorienting category, but spend some time contemplating that truth, that schism offends against charity, sit in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and God will clarify it for you.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks very much. Just a couple comments from Facebook. Patrick, our good friend in New York, says he never got the questionnaire. So I apologize for that because
No. We deliberately didn't send it to Patrick.
Oh, we kept Patrick out of it. We didn't want to know what Patrick
He was
had
going
said.
to say too much banter.
That's
you guys
right.
need to move on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he says
Yeah,
every
so,
time.
Oh, that's
Patrick,
mean. I don't know what happened, Patrick, but it wasn't
you
that.
have to come to the conference in September in order to submit your answers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he's coming. Michael, who's also coming to the conference, says that we should just call the show Cy and Two Lumberjacks. So I don't know. I think that's a good one. All right, so back to the survey that we did. Our question number 2.
Actually, sorry, before we go on, if I could do 2 things. Number 1, I was going to say happy 15th anniversary to Geneva and her husband. No, my friend Neil. I promised him I would say happy anniversary to his wife.
Oh, very nice. Happy anniversary.
And, I'm trying to show him up.
And you said 15th
he couldn't
anniversary?
think of what to do for his wife. So I said, oh, don't worry, I got it covered. So
Good job, Joe.
Yeah,
nicely
now
done, Joe.
Now you've even made it harder for that.
that was my intention.
Way to
That
go.
was my goal.
You can't accept money for that. I think it might be simony, but you can accept a gratuity.
There we go. Second, I think we should take the caller on line 1 very briefly because I think she has an important message for you.
Oh, really? The caller on line 1?
let's go.
All right, well, tell me the name. Because I don't have
Shanna in Sioux City, Iowa.
Shanna in Sioux City, Iowa. You're on the flannel panel.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just calling with a suggestion.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of the flannel panel. I really enjoy you guys. But this is not the first time someone has forgotten their flannel. So my suggestion was perhaps an emergency flannel box, perhaps next to your AED or your fire extinguisher, that you could break the glass.
We might need
when
a couple
you
of
needed
different
flannel.
sizes.
You
but
know,
yeah.
Shanna, yeah, first of all, Chris better not forget his shirt because he's not going to fit in the one that'll fit me and Joe. Or he'll fit in it, but he'll swim in it. But I want to hear something really sad. Our good friend Ann sent
She
us
mailed you. Yeah,
emergency,
yeah.
and I brought them home and forgot to bring them back. So it's worse than you think, Shanna.
The phrase
it's worse than you
foolproof
think.
underestimates how good
Yeah,
fools.
yeah, it's hard to be foolproof around here. Thank you for the suggestion. I feel scolded and demeaned.
Do you want to announce your shirt size on the air, Cy, and see how many you get in the mail?
No, because it's a hard size to find. Let me just put it that way.
People would excel if they were
Shanna-
able to send you some.
Shanna, do you want a copy of Joe's book, The Eucharist is Really Jesus?
Of course.
I'm a medium.
Wonderful.
I'm
Thank
just
you for your
saying,
call.
I'm just letting
Thank
people
you.
know.
We can't consult you.
I'm.
No
the light
mediums.
went on.
Yeah, no
The light
mediums.
went
Okay, so let's go on with our.
Yes.
We're on to question 2.
At this rate, we're actually probably above where you realistically thought we'd be.
Yeah, this is Chris's famous thing. Are you sure we have enough material for the flannel panel? Yeah, Chris, we have enough material. We're going to be fine. Regarding the synod on synodality, which word best represent your feelings? So this is
Synod.
how we're.
Synodal.
No, I'm not done yet. This is how we're going to play this. I want your answer, and then I want what you think was the big answer. Okay? Which word represents your feelings on the synod on synodality? Dread, hope, annoyance, enthusiasm, boredom. Which of these words represents your feelings on the synod on synodality? Dread, hope, annoyance, enthusiasm, or boredom? Play along at home. Which one would you choose? Which one do you think our listeners chose?
Wow. Okay. I would, if there was a mild interest category, I would have chosen that one.
So that's a little better than boredom?
Yeah, I might go boredom. My feelings are slightly better than boredom.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, I imagine this is going to be something we talk about and talk about and talk about, and nothing substantive happens, because most giant church-wide consultation processes that last years and years end up there in like some vaguely worded, we should all be better Christians kind of statement that no one's going to really disagree with. And then there's going to be a footnote that's really shocking and confusing. And then we're going to debate that for a few weeks and then,
Good Lord.
and then move on.
Boy, it's a romantic view of the life of the
Yes,
church you
so-
have, Joe.
Well,
All right, so that was
let me show
yours.
you
Yours
exhibits
is
A
a
through
little
Z.
better than boredom
yeah,
is what you
and
choose.
I'm
But
going to
you,
guess either boredom or dread for our
Chris,
listeners.
what one would you choose? What describes your feelings?
Of the choices that
Yeah.
you gave, probably annoyance.
Okay, and what do you think our listeners?
I would just say that it is annoying when the church or when prelates use such vague language that all kinds of meanings can be attached to it, and I don't think the formation of the faithful proceeds as a result of that. It does not, and I just think the faithful are just maybe I would say frustrated, if that were a choice, rather than annoyed, but frustrated.
Yeah, that would, I would also
Stop
I would
editing
say
my choices.
frustrated.
All right, the two of you. Not gonna,
But our
our
listeners, I'm going to guess dread.
well, this point that you make though about the subtlety of the terminology. I know bishops who have developed a second career talking about synodal and what synodal means and what a synodal
I'm sorry,
church
by
looks
the
like.
way, if you have to tell me what it means,
Then stop
if
it.
it has to be explained to
Right,
me.
I get it. You're very smart, but that's not helping the church. If
No.
you have to go write articles and go on podcasts to describe what a synodal church is, then you're not ever going to get a synodal church.
No.
That's never going to happen. All right, here's going from least to most on that question. The lowest was enthusiasm. That was 2.73%.
And then
Well,
hope.
it's kind of a weak word. The next lowest was boredom, 15%. Up next at 20% was annoyance. At 29%, hope.
Wow.
And at 32.5%, dread. So it's funny. It's a
fairly
real
balanced,
split.
actually,
It's
yeah.
a real split between hope and dread.
I want
Which-
to commend anybody who answered hope.
I know. Good for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yep. I wish I were there.
I think the thing that, to put maybe a finer point on the annoyance or the frustration, to solicit someone's opinion in a way that is not going to do anything actually feels like worse than not. I feel this way not just about things in the church, but if I go to a store and they send me like a user survey and I know it's not going to do anything, it's super annoying at a certain point to be like, why? Why are you soliciting this feedback?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I'm not convinced something substantive might potentially happen with even the aggregate of everybody replying to you,
Right.
yeah, what's the point here? Like if the DMV gives you a survey and you're like, it was bad. It was really bad.
Did Monica Dumit tell you her synod on synodality story? By the way,
We're
she's
naming her by name.
she's
Let's hope this is something
yes,
she's-
she told it to me in confidence. Here, share it with the whole world, Chris. Please share
she's
them.
going to be there in October
Rome?
with a front row seat.
Oh, God bless her.
But she was at one of the one of the original parish meetings where they had facilitators and
Yeah.
at each table, and then they had a mix of people at the table of clergy and laity. And the first question that everyone had to answer is, "What's your greatest fear?" And one person of significance at the table said, being booed. And Monica said, well, what about hell?
or you live in Australia. What about spiders?
What about hell?
Yeah. What about hell? No, not so concerned
God
about
bless
that.
Monica Dumet.
She's great, and it was so great to have her here. All right, well, I think we got to take a quick break.
My
We'll be
friends,
right back.
don't be afraid
All right,
to
let
be
me tell you what the
booed.
next question is. Regarding the U.S. bishops' efforts at Eucharistic revival, which would you say best represents your feelings? And it's the same words. So we'll find out when we come back right after this.
Yeah,
Catholic
I'm
Answers
much more
Live.
optimistic.
There's only one Catholic Answers Live.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects home buyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
One of the biggest mistakes a Christian can make is to try to do good without God's help. St. Therese said, when we trust only ourselves and not God, our soul becomes incapable of virtue. Her remedy? Works of charity. And the greatest work of charity is to share the gospel. At St. Paul Street Evangelization, a Catholic nonprofit, we encourage you to share the gospel with someone who doesn't know Jesus. Catholic Answers is supported in part by St. Paul Street Evangelization, streetevangelization.com.
The most original and exclusive Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
One time somebody said to me, why don't you air these people? And I said, no, because I don't think they're Catholic. He says, by what right do you have to say that? I said, I own the network.
Mother Angelica Live Classics. Tonight, 8 Eastern on EWTN Television and Radio.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host, the host of the Flannel Panel. Yes, I did forget to wear my flannel shirt for the flannel panel. I didn't forget to wear it. I forgot to bring it. I hung it on the back of my door and then walked right past it, probably because one of my dogs was barking at me on the way out the door. Ross Hayden says, why isn't Cy wearing a flannel? Ross, show up on time. Then you'll be up to speed
So,
with us.
that's big talk from a guy who couldn't even show up with the flannel.
Sorry, Ross. I take it all back. Hey, the Flannel Panel is going to Rome, and we have exciting news about our pilgrimage to Rome, November 9th through the 18th this year. Big news, big news.
It's half sold.
It's and we want to just finalize the deal.
Yeah,
So
we're only
here's-
taking 50 people, folks.
Right, and once it's sold out, it's sold out. We're not doing a second bus because that's just not how we do pilgrimages. We go on pilgrimage.
In fact, we spend very little time on a bus.
Yeah, right.
It's mostly on foot.
And we're going to have a great time, and we want you to come. But so we decided to have, what's the word for a sale?
Flash sale.
Flash sale.
$300
$300
flannel credit. If
No,
you bring
yeah,
a flannel,
you can buy
$300
credit.
off.
$300 off the world's best flannels. No, it's $300 off if you finish signing up. You don't have to finish paying, but you just finish signing up
Yep.
by July 11th. So it's a big, exciting time. We want to close the books on who's coming and who's staying, and we also want to stay in. There's a very particular hotel we want to stay in, and we want to close that deal, make it final. And so we said, hey, let's have a flash sale. We'll get this done. So if you sign up by July 11th, $300 off per person, starting right now. Go.
Yep.
Go to Catholic Answers
Only
Pilgrimage.
25 seats left. By the way, it is a beautiful hotel. It's my favorite hotel in Rome.
CatholicAnswersPilgrimage.com. By the way, you can do your own. It includes everything. So when you look, it includes everything, even the tips. Like we're not asking you to. You go on most pilgrimages. You got to throw in a little something for each church you visit and all that. No, we're taking care of all of it, everything.
Yep.
But if
And
you
by
look
the
at
end
it
of it,
and
you
you
spend
go,
an
hey,
extra
I
couple
can
$1,000s.
I can get to Rome cheaper than that. I don't want them to
Just
get
do the land only.
Just do the land only, and that takes off another. I don't know, $1,500 or $1,200
Whatever
or something.
whatever that
Yeah.
round trip airfare is. Yeah.
So check it out, CatholicAnswersPilgrimage.com, CatholicAnswersPilgrimage.com. And this show, Flannel Panel, will be recorded live in Rome. The first time we have ever done a radio program from Rome. And when I say recorded live, I mean recorded live. It's not going to be broadcast live. It will be recorded live.
Is there another way to record?
We're going to be alive while we're recording it.
And the pilgrims
because it's the middle of the
will
night.
be the studio audience.
Yeah, the studio audience. All the questions will come from our pilgrims. Catholic
We don't take questions during flannel panel.
Answers Pilgrimage.
But we will in Rome.
Well, we are now because we've promised. CatholicAnswersPilgrimage.com. We promise to treat you better than we treated the callers to this show today. CatholicAnswersPilgrimage.com. All right, so another question we asked all of our listeners except for Patrick. We don't know why, Patrick. We don't know what happened. Regarding the U.S. Catholic bishops' efforts at Eucharistic revival, which would you say best represents your feelings? Dread, hope, annoyance, enthusiasm, or boredom? Once again, dread, hope, annoyance, enthusiasm, or boredom? Which one is for you, Joe?
I hate having to choose between hope and enthusiasm. I feel both. I'm actually this is one area where, so look, if the complaint I had about the Synod on Synodality is that it was vague as to what the goals were, vague as to what was going to happen, I don't have any of that with the Eucharistic revival. That it's very clear what's intended and how they're hoping to get there. And so I have hope. I mean, I don't think it's going to be the only thing we need, but I think this is a huge part of a real religious revival in the country. So I would say hope, followed by enthusiasm. And I suspect listeners would as well.
Chris?
I answered this one, hope, and for the reasons Joe said. I also have been in regular contact with Joel Stepanek, who is running the conference in Indianapolis, the big event next summer, and Father Craig Vasek, who is working directly under Bishop Cousins, and both of these are first-rate Christian men. So I know that the leadership that's putting this thing together are very, very fine men with good and correct objectives. And
Yeah.
I answered this one, hope. I think it's a great thing, and I'm glad that Catholic Answers is able to play a role and help promote it.
Well, here's what our listeners said. Dread was the lowest. I beg your pardon. Annoyance was the lowest at 1.2%. Dread got 1.7%. Boredom got 2.8%. Enthusiasm got 27.5%. And hope got 67%.
Oh, praise God.
Which means
I love our listeners.
more than 95% of our listeners are feeling either enthusiastic or hopeful or both.
Wonderful.
About so I told you there was going to be a good twist.
Can I use this as a point of departure for something?
Yeah.
My friends, if you feel this hope and this enthusiasm, I'm very glad that you do. But I want to challenge you to do something with it. I'm quite serious. Joe's holding his book up.
Yeah.
Get Joe's book. I don't know what we sell these books for, but it's like nothing.
Oh, it's 33% off right now.
Yeah, if you buy them in like boxes of 20, it's $70. That's $3.50 a book.
Okay, so that is a whale of a deal. Buy several cases of these for your parish and tell you
resell them. We don't even need to tell you. Don't tell anyone. You can do this.
And tell
give them away.
Tell
Yeah.
your pastor
Yeah.
that you will pass them out on Sunday, and let's get people competent talking about what the church teaches about the real presence.
I want to give a shout out to my own wife here because she was at dinner with a couple of her girlfriends who were evangelical Protestants, and one of them said, "What is worship anyway?" And she said, "Oh, my husband just wrote a book about that," and so she's going to do a little book study with them on the book. And so, yeah, those kind of opportunities. It's intended to be written in as inviting a way as I could, while still being honest about the differences.
Let's
between
channel
Catholic
that
and Protestant.
enthusiasm and that hope, my friends, into conversations, inviting
Yes.
people to the love of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist.
Okay, so my understanding is there will be actual walking pilgrimages as part of this next summer.
We sign you up?
I want to do it so bad. Like, I want to walk for days with they're going to carry Christ in the monstrance. Is that right? Like,
Yeah.
Can we do that?
The
Can I get some
pilgrimages-
days off work is what I'm asking to go walk with Jesus.
I don't even think you need to take vacation for that. We'll just send a tape recorder with you.
Yeah,
Or-
you're
we'll just
going
do
with
the
your
show.
boss. I mean, ultimately.
Yeah, that's right. He is our boss.
It's a work
That's
trip.
exactly right. Oh, I hope he doesn't do an evaluation.
I've read Matthew 25.
That
He
is
does.
coming. Yeah, that is
No,
coming.
but I just mean now. Yeah.
A mid-year review.
Yeah, I don't want to. don't want to know how I'm doing now. I want to see
talk
how
about
this
your
all wraps up
goals.
first. But doesn't it seem like I think that's going to be so great to walk through cities and towns,
Not
and
Chicago.
farmlands, and
True.
I'll walk through Chicago, but I know they're not going to have the monster. But maybe the Cardinal will relent there and allow it. I mean,
Please,
lighten
God.
up. Come on, lighten
Maybe we
up.
can walk around Chicago 7 times.
Joe, that is not. Stop it, Joe. But maybe we could like
Blowing a trumpet.
Wait, so
So
they'll
far.
be in the points of the compass, right? There's going to be one north, south, east, and west, or something, and you
They're
head
all going to
towards
converge in
converge, yeah.
Indianapolis.
All right. Well, maybe I'll do.
If I have a beef, and this is the only beef I have, it should have been Kansas City. It's more central, but it's still beautiful.
Wait, then Indianapolis is more central.
think so.
But you know what? You're
Geographic
thinking
center
of
of the United
geographic.
States,
Yeah,
yeah.
but population is way east, man. Most
Yeah,
Americans
fair
live
enough.
east of the Rockies. They're making a mistake, but that's where they live. All right. All right. Well, I almost gave out the phone number. I'll give out the phone number again.
Hartville, Missouri is the nation's center of population based on the latest U.S.
Hartville,
Census
Missouri?
data.
Really?
Salt,
That's
Salt
farther
Lake,
west than I would have
Salt Lake
thought.
City would have been fun.
That would have been awesome.
Well, I almost mentioned
Yeah.
this before. The Mormon belief is that Jesus will return in Jackson County, Missouri, which is also where Sister Wilhelmina is.
Oh.
I believe. Though she's
Wow.
within an hour from there. So, yeah. And it's where Kansas City is. All of it is pointing to the same
And
place.
there's an article on Catholic Answers magazine online right now about why I'm not Mormon. Have you seen that? I didn't read it yet, but you saw it? Okay, good. I thought for a second I hallucinated, but no, because they were both looking at me like I'm weird. But
No, I missed that, actually.
who does? Trent has a podcast out about what?
Why I'm not
Mormonism.
Mormon.
Mormonism.
Not
Oh,
not
okay.
Kansas City. He
Okay.
should. But yeah.
All right. I want to take. Is Shauna in Daytona Beach, Florida, on the line right now? Is that all right, Shauna?
Yes.
Hi, Shauna. Go ahead.
Hi.
Go ahead with your question or comment.
Okay, absolutely. Hi, Joe. You're one of my favorite apologists in my top two.
Thanks. I want to ask you who the other one is.
Wait, he made the top 2 of your favorite apologists?
Yes, that would be Jimmy Aiken.
All right.
Wonderful.
Well, who are your top 2 favorite hosts? No,
Nah,
I'm just kidding.
moving on.
Oh,
Moving on. Moving on. We don't need that kind of trouble here, Shauna.
Yes. Okay, so my question is it true that the Synod of Synodality is open to all people to give their thoughts and comments, or is it only for Catholics?
Oh, what a wonderful question.
Yeah,
I have
believe,
no
I believe
idea.
that's right.
It is the latter.
Yeah.
No, it's the former.
The former, yeah. It's open.
Anybody could comment? Like,
Yep.
Which, and as far as it's a listening session, I think as long as you're clear where these thoughts and ideas are coming from, it's not bad to say, so for instance, the Council of Trent invited the Protestant reformers to come. They didn't come. but
Yeah.
We're all about.
well, they might have made a prudent choice in not coming.
Well,
I mean,
that was
I'm
the
not-
claim.
I-
I mean,
I don't-
they were saying, Jan Hus was killed by the Holy Roman Emperor. But look, how many of the Protestant reformers were martyred? I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The myth is much bigger than the reality.
Yeah.
Where when you had martyrdom, it was often for these really complicated political reasons, like in England, and it was hardly in one direction.
So, Shauna, are you a non-Catholic?
I became Catholic last year.
Hey, welcome
Wow.
home,
Oh,
Shauna.
Praise God! How
Yes.
beautiful. And when did you discover Joe Heschmeyer on that walk towards the church? After you were already in?
Oh no, you guys are like hugely instrumental in to me even becoming Catholic. I had I thought, that I need to become Catholic after a medical issue. I was actually a yoga teacher studying Buddhism. And so I just found Catholic Answers and started learning. And by the time I approached a priest about becoming Catholic, he was like, my gosh, you know a lot.
Wow.
I'm like, I listen to Catholic Answers.
Oh,
Praise God! That is such.
thanks for the
such
shout out to the
yes.
clergy too. Appreciate that. Wow, what a beautiful story. I'll tell you what, we're definitely going to send you The Eucharist is Really Jesus, How Christ's Body and Blood Are the Key to Everything We Believe. That's Joe Heschmeyer's new book. But is there any other book that we have? And this is not a trick question, don't worry. Joe's laughing. But is there any other book that we have that you'd like us to send you?
Pope Peter.
Pope Peter. All right, Pope Peter. All right, your Joe Heschmeyer library has begun.
Yay.
Oh, thank you very much, Shauna.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
honored and welcome home. That's tremendously.
Welcome home.
Thank you
tremendously
so
beautiful.
much. I appreciate you guys.
Well,
I really
thanks.
do.
Thanks. All right. We are going to have to head into the break, but we've got another hour of Flannel Panel. We discuss the news of the day, and I do have some news stories I might throw at you guys, but we're going to finish this survey that we did of all of our listeners except Patrick, and we got some big questions coming. The biggest questions yet to come. Chris Check is president of Catholic Answers. Joe Heschmeyer is Shauna's second favorite apologist. And I am Cy Kellett, your host. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Flannel Panel. Don't forget, while we're at this break, perfect time to go to CatholicAnswersPilgrimage.com. We'll finish filling up that bus, and then we'll all go to Rome, and you get $300 off if you are signed up. You don't have to be paid up, but if you're signed up by July 11th of this year, because we're having a flash sale. CatholicAnswersPilgrimage.com. Right back with more Flannel Panel on Catholic Answers Live. Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Chris Check here with us in the studio, president of Catholic Answers. Thank you for coming back, Chris.
Cy, thanks for keep having me back against your better judgment.
I know. We bring it up at the meetings, but you just keep winning the vote by like one.
Against your better judgment, against the listener surveys.
I know. All signs.
That's
Wait,
what
the top result, dread.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's
But
why
at
we
least it
didn't
wasn't
send it to
boredom.
Patrick, because we knew what he would. Don't quit having Chris on the show.
Yeah, right.
Too much banter.
And Joe Heschmeyer, who from now on will be referred to as Shauna's second favorite apologist, even though she did not say that.
She said top two, which, if you're the number one, they don't tell you top two.
That's right. If you're number one, nobody says you're in my top two.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
That's like coming in second place in tennis.
I see that. I see
Or
now.
what does Ricky
Are you
Bobby
saying
say?
there's only two? If you ain't first, you're last.
Oh, I thought second place is the first loser was Ricky Bobby, but maybe you're right. If you ain't.
Yeah, it's. These
All right, help
cultural
us out on
references.
Facebook. Help us out. What does Ricky Bobby say? We need to know.
I don't even know who Ricky Bobby is.
It's
Are
a
you
Will Ferrell
kidding?
movie. This is the difference in your tastes.
It's because
so you know
because
what? I
you're
don't
a
like
holy
it.
and noble
I accept
creature.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In tennis, love means nothing.
This moment brought to you by Joe Heschmeyer. This moment of
Awkward-
confusion and
awkward
depression
silence, yes.
brought to you by Joe Heschmeyer.
One of my gifts.
All right, here's the way we do it. Well, first of all, this is the flannel panel. That's why we're all wearing flannel. And the way the flannel panel works is the flannel has nothing to do with it. It's just a costume. It's just part of the razzle dazzle that we present. But the heart of the matter is we talk about the news of the day from a Catholic perspective. And right now we're talking about what survey we did, a mid-year survey of our listeners. We asked them, and there's two ways we asked them. If they're members of, wait, now I'm saying this, but we did ask Society 315, right?
Maybe that's why I got it.
Yeah, so Society 315 and the Radio Club.
Maybe Radio Club didn't get it.
No, Radio Club definitely got it. But I'm trying to remember if I remembered to send it to Society. Sorry if you're in Society 315 if I didn't send it to you. So if you're in one of those two groups, we send you the survey mid-year and then end of year nowadays. And then you get to tell us what you think. We got a huge response on this one. Like, it was really quite gratifying that so many people just turned around and gave us their answers, and it gave us good material for the show. So we're on for the review of the previous year's story, or the last 6 months' stories. The next question that we asked was, what do you think is the most likely outcome of the German synodal way?
What are the choices? Like, they stay in the church, they don't stay in the church. We set up an inquisition.
The
in
revival of
Germany?
Catholic life in Germany.
Okay.
A more open and Christ-like approach to Catholic life in Germany.
I'm impressed you managed to write these.
Damage to Catholic life in Germany. A schism, or schism, I beg your pardon, Chris. A schism of the Catholic Church. Which do you think our listeners thought of the German synodal
I
vague?
think damage has already happened.
Yeah.
Damage to Catholic life is already underway.
Yeah.
More damage, worse damage. Schism is not outside of the realm of possibility here, my
Are
friends.
we going to do all CHs as just an H? We're going to be Christchek.
Check. I like it.
I don't know why it's pronounced schism instead of schism, but I will know before the next show why schism is correct and schism is less preferred.
Okay. It's from the Greek schisma. So there's an SK.
Well, I don't know
in
what
the
part of
original.
Greece you come from, but it's schisma in Greece. That's the way we say it there.
But
I think I'm the only one, by the way, I know who says schism.
that's usually a good sign I'm pronouncing a word wrong.
in the building. I don't know anybody else who says schism.
I've got a lot of
Who
words
says
that
schism?
only I pronounce one
The
way.
only way to settle this, call Queen Elizabeth. How does she pronounce it?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, too soon? Sorry, my bad. My bad.
That story's not from the last 6 months.
He's
is
getting.
it?
He's no. When did the Queen pass? That was last year, right? Yeah, Chris has no idea. Queen of what? What are we referring to? I didn't know Beyonce was dead. All right, here's the regarding, or what do you think is the most likely outcome of the German synodal way? Our
I think
listeners said,
realistically, damage to the church. I don't know if I put it in my vote. I think
All right.
schism is a real possibility. But if I had to put bets on it, I would
Word
bet.
for word, that's what I said. I
Yeah.
said schism is a possibility here.
Well, almost word for word. I
Not
said
not
schism
syllable
is a
for syllable,
possibility.
but word for word. Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, a revival of the Catholic life in Germany. 4.3%
Who
of
are
our.
these? No offense to you, 4.3%.
I know 4 out of every 100 people that took our survey thought, yeah, that German synodal way, that's really going to revive things.
Were
in
these
Germany.
also the people who said they felt dread about the Eucharistic reamazement?
Do we have any German bishops in our radio club? I don't know who these people are. All right, a more open and Christ-like approach to life in Germany. 6%.
Wow.
So 10% of our listeners, and this is a self-selecting group, the listeners of Catholic Answers, 10% thought, yeah, it's going pretty well there
I
in
might
Germany.
be giving them too much credit, but there's a sense in which the Protestant Reformation did lead to a huge outpouring of Catholic sanctity in response.
Oh, so you're saying that maybe our listeners are thinking,
Persecution.
oh,
People
we're
are gonna
going
be
down to go
lukewarm
up.
if they
Yeah.
see, oh,
Yeah.
hey, there's a real crisis in the church. People need to step up.
Yeah.
I know dioceses that experience real crises often have an outpouring of vocation. There does seem to be a sense in which where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more.
I would say it's more likely that 10% of our listeners have never heard of Germany or the Synodal Way. that this is a group that couldn't find Germany on a map.
Yeah, it is confusing because you've got the synod on synodality and you got the synodal way, and so keeping those two distinct,
Oh, that's
where
true.
one of them is
Yeah.
actually potentially a very good thing, and the other one has been like already condemned by the church.
Okay, the winner on this one was an absolute statistical tie, a perfect statistical tie to 2 decimal points. Damage to Catholic life in Germany, 44.79%. A schism of the Catholic Church, 44.79%, for a total of 90%, if you round properly, if 90% of our listeners thought this is not going well and it's not going to go well.
They're right.
Yeah. I have to say, I mean, it's a world church and all that, but I cannot fathom living in a church, like having a national church that thinks that the sexual revolution, like it's not like a fringe like we have in the United States, the National Catholic Register, reporter types. I always do that backwards. The National
From Kansas City.
And God bless them. I'm not trying to badmouth the National Catholic Reporter. I'm just saying that they represent a minority in active American Catholics. How did we get a whole national church that thinks, hey, we're all in on the sexual revolution? We are all in on this.
I mean, there is a church tax, so whether you're a practicing Catholic or not, you're
Yeah,
giving
you're
3%
in.
of your money to the German bishops.
Right.
And so they don't need to be responsive to the movements of the Holy Spirit because they can respond to the movements of the German government. I mean, that maybe is too cynical of a way, but I do think there's a real sense in which if they felt acutely that they were losing practicing tithing members, that would probably be a wake-up call. And I mean that without assuming the worst motives or anything like that. I think there's a sense in which Germany really favors a very academic clergy. And when you have bad academic strains, they can become enamored with the latest theological fads and heresies. So I think that's another kind of factor in this, where if they are a church that smells like the sheep and really knows, oh, hey, this thing we've been preaching seems to be driving practicing Catholics away.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It seems like that's an important kind of check that we've lost in places like Germany.
Joe, that's an interesting thing that you say, and it's testable to some degree or another, because Germany is not the only nation that has some form or another of a
good
church
point.
tax.
Like does Austria?
Well, I think of Canada, for example. The schools, in any case, are heavily subsidized by the state. By the way, I think there's, by the way, a social justice argument to be made in favor of that.
Yeah.
I support it.
Although
but
Monica was telling us in Australia the government pays for the Catholic schools, and it has not helped the Catholic schools.
No, I think in the modern period, or in the by modern I mean Renaissance forward here, I think there's too close an association between the king's coin and what the king is going to demand.
Yes.
And if the king is not a Christian prelate, which we don't have in any of these countries, in a
Since
real
Queen
sense.
Elizabeth died.
Well, yeah, but even in praxis, I would say
she's not the head of state in that way. Yeah.
Right. So I think that in the modern period, in effect, it's probably not a good idea
Yeah,
and-
well,
and-
I think actually England's a good example. Last I saw, Anglicanism, the official religion of the country, was the third most practiced religion in the country after Catholicism and Islam. Yeah.
Yeah. More people are
And-
going to mosque on Friday than church on Sunday.
Right.
Wow.
The other thing about this that I think is something that bears reflection on the part of our listeners and the three of us is we're not inclined to think that things can be bad. We have a part of it's a naivete. Some of it is optimism. Some of it is sort of cultivated optimism, but we're reluctant. We're reluctant to admit that things can be socially, economically, politically, spiritually bad.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And I think a little cold water and some honest assessment of what's going on in Germany, or in a different way, what went on in Mexico in the late 1920s, or the persecution of the church in various African countries
Or Nicaragua
right now.
today,
Nicaragua,
which is a horror show.
Nicaragua, where they just said, this was just a couple of days ago, they just said, we're shutting down this seminary because they're laundering money. Heavens. There was a little bit of like a micro loan program going on from...
so they called it money laundering?
Yeah, and so they call it, and they've seized the assets of this seminary.
Of course, just like Henry VIII.
Or,
It's the
sure,
same
sure,
deal.
sure. Or in Australia, our friend Monica DeMitt, who was here a week or so ago, telling us about a hospital that has just been taken by the government.
Yeah.
Now, we've not felt the effects of this in the United States, and when we do, it tends to be, multinational corporations or corporations like Guggenheim Baseball Management, for example, inviting in blasphemous and sacrilegious sideshow acts. But we are beginning to feel the constraints of government, and we need only look to these other parts of the world to see what is not outside the realm of possibility in the United States.
I think all of that's true. I think the parallel we'd see is not the direct government takeover. I'll give you an example.
Sure.
In Washington, D.C., they passed a law that required all adoption agencies to adopt to same-sex couples. And
to facilitate adoption
yes, they
by
could not,
same-sex
they could
couples.
not
Yeah,
say
that happened in Chicago.
You can't
too.
go. And so Catholic Charities there spun off and became Christian Charities, and the Catholic Adoption Agency in D.C. shut down. And Cardinal Wuerl went to them ahead of time and said that was what was going to happen. And one of the councilmen said, "That's what we want."
Yeah.
Like it was intentional. We
Right.
can't just directly take you over, but we can make it so you literally can't do business.
Right. That's
And
what they tried to
then-
do
and
with
then-
Grace here in San Diego. With,
Yeah,
with,
and so then the government steps
Children
in and
of the
says, "Well,
Immaculate
look,
Heart."
nobody was doing it, so now we need the government to get bigger and do it." It's pernicious and evil. It's a little less direct than what you would get in Nicaragua.
Well, let me ask you about this then. I would be interested to hear what the two of you think about it. In the United States, the movement is not towards getting the government to pay for Catholic schools. The movement is towards getting the government to give a voucher to the parents, and they can choose a school.
That was actually what I was going to say. Is I think this is a good middleman to just have the money follow the student. Because right now, there's insane stories about just widespread educational corruption in public schools. And one of the examples, Baltimore was notorious for this, where they would round up truant kids by busloads and send them to school in the first days because government money was based on how many students you had.
The
in
attendance
classroom.
on that day.
Right. And then after that, you were free to go because then they were getting thousands of dollars per student.
Right.
While that student was physically not even there. That's just theft. I mean, there's no way around that. When you're saying we're getting money for all these kids who we intentionally sent to school one day, and we're not providing them even a modicum of education. We're not even in the same building as them. But then if you want to say not even in the same building, the number one predictor of whether a school stayed closed after the initial wave of COVID wasn't how bad the COVID rates were. It was how strong the teachers union was.
The teachers unions really hurt themselves.
And what I think
and
happened
I'm sure
is
there's good
parents
ones and bad
realized
ones,
how
but man, they
little,
hurt themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And so parents, I think, would like to have a school system more responsive. You've got all the COVID stuff, all of the controversy about that, followed by all these controversies over things like the books that are in the school libraries. And rather than having to have a top-down government solution of a book list, a band list, whatever, the easiest way is to just put money in the hands of parents to say, send them to a sane school.
Yeah,
but then schools have to be certified by the government. And so does the noose tighten eventually where they go, you can spend this at any school, but you can't spend it at a school that teaches that two men can't marry each other because that's bigotry. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, certainly.
Is that what we get
that
to?
is certainly a risk. But that doesn't put us in any worse of a spot than we currently are in, which is right now we get $0.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
A tuition tax credit is a better model.
Can you tell me on the other side of the break? Because I'm late for the break.
Oh, sure.
I
Go ahead.
apologize,
Yeah.
Chris. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with the Flannel Panel on Catholic Answers Live.
Your questions, Catholic Answers Live.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects homebuyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
The destination for great Catholic audio programming is EWTN Podcast Central, featuring the best of EWTN radio, as well as faith-filled podcasts from our friends and affiliates across the nation, all in one place, all free. If it's central to the faith, you can find it on EWTN Podcast Central. It's like podcast heaven. Visit EWTN.com/radio/podcasts today.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Flannel Panel. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. Flannel Panel members, Joe Heschmeyer, apologist here at Catholic Answers and the author of this brand new, beautiful book, The Eucharist is Really Jesus, How Christ's Body and Blood Are the Key to Everything We Believe. By the way, it's on sale today at shop.catholic.com. You use a promo code Jesus33. Jesus33. I'm not sure about using the name of Jesus as a promo code, but I'm going to go with it. You get 33% off if you use that promo code at shop.catholic.com.
It does look a little bit like Jesus' username, which is a very strange kind of thing.
You know, the thing is, there's probably,
that would make sense.
I'm sure that is someone's username somewhere, you know, because it's only, I mean, in the Anglo world.
Maybe it's Jesus 33.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, let's say that. That sounds.
Jesus Trenta y Tres. Did I do that right? I don't know.
Yeah. Jesus 33. You were trying to do 33 in Spanish? Oh, this should be good.
I thought it was Trenta y Tres. I'm
okay.
I'm getting the thumbs up from Edgar, who speaks slightly
Yeah.
better Spanish than I do.
Yeah.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. That's okay. You read that on a sign.
I don't know what these things mean. No. But I was going to say, Jesus 33. Here's a good way to remember it. A little story. I already told one positive story about my wife. I also do another one. You were just saying how mean I am to my wife earlier. So this is.
I apologize that I said on the air how mean you are to your wife.
I do
because
pick on my wife a lot.
I should have covered for
but
you.
But this
on
is
how
her
mean you
picking
are
on
to your
me.
wife. Yeah.
I got married to her at 33, and she gave me a beautiful painting called Christ at 33. And she explained it's because marriage is a little crucifixion.
And she's lived up to that. Sorry. You've lived up to that.
I've lived it, yeah. Martyrdom on an installment.
All right, so the way we're doing Flannel Panel today, Chris Check, our other guest, of course, president of Catholic Answers.
Hey, Cy.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
Here's
I'm
another
happy.
one. This one goes, this is a future-looking one. We asked our listeners, over the next 10 years, what do you expect for the Catholic Church? It will experience revival and growth. It will get smaller and lose public stature. It will muddle through just as it has been, or none of these. What would be your answer, and then what do you think our listeners answered?
So it certainly is going to continue to contract. I mean, as a whole, and all this data is available. The guys who do a great job with it are our friends J.D. Flynn and Ed Condon. At the Pillar, they've got a data guy. I can't remember his name. He's great. But we're already seeing fewer baptisms, fewer funerals, fewer marriages.
Right.
So all of the statistics that point to faithful in the pews, there's no question the church is going to contract. We're also seeing parishes closing. New Haven, I think, has gone from is going to go from 9 to 1 parish
In Connecticut?
The city of New Haven. Yeah, that's in the diocese or archdiocese of Hartford, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then we've seen parish consolidation or contraction in other parts of the country as well. Now, there will be places where there's going to continue to be quite exciting growth.
Yeah.
The Metroplex of Texas is going to be one of them. I think Charlotte.
Yes. Largest church in the country.
Largest church in the country, a superb seminary, a great rector there. Almost every fraternity of St. Peter or Institute of Christ the King parish is going to continue.
But is that here's my question about that. Is that growth for the church, or is that just movement?
I think a lot of that's lateral movement.
Yeah, it's not really growth.
Oh,
it's just
no.
That parish
Wait a minute.
is growing.
Yes, it is lateral movement, but it's also church growth, the best kind.
Biological.
Yeah.
I see. Making babies.
In camera, right?
Yeah.
So it is. It's the best kind of church growth, and that's where it's taking place, and it's going to continue to happen. At our friends, for example, whose canonical status isn't so well clarified with the Pius X Society, they just built the largest Catholic church in the state of Kansas. It's huge. And I don't know if any of you have been to St. Mary's, Kansas. I've been there. Well, you've been, Joe.
I was there just a few weeks ago.
So you've seen it.
I did.
This place is huge. And by the way, beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's a testament to the kind of beautiful church architecture that's still possible.
Yep, it sure is. I've been to St. Mary several times. My friend Jim Vogel lives there, and that's a little town. I don't know what the population of St. Mary's, Kansas is.
It's not large. It's very
30,000.
Yeah, it's a lot of Catholics, a lot of society folks, however you want to, whatever.
They are Catholics.
Yeah, they're Catholics in an unusual relationship with the broader church.
Although their priests have faculties to hear confession, let's be clear about that. And if appointed by the local ordinary, they can
marry.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I believe that delegation's been given.
But still being
in Kansas.
Just to be clear, though, being in explicit union with the Vicar of Christ is an important thing.
I'm in favor of it.
Yeah.
I'm in favor.
That's not a negligible loss.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they name Pope Francis when they say Mass, and they name the local bishop when they offer Mass.
Well, it's good. They should just come into full communion with the church, and that'll be really efficacious.
I do think we are getting a little bit off the question of growth.
Very well. In any case, there are going to be places where there's going to be growth. And good and vibrant and enthusiastic and hopeful growth. But overall, the contraction is coming. The contraction is coming, and the aging is coming.
Yeah, because we also have the baby bust coming. The baby boomers are starting to get to that stage where they pass on to eternal judgment, and there is not a similarly large demographic of babies coming up. Yeah. Leaving aside the Catholic question, just in terms of American population, world population, and certainly in the West, there's a lot of weird demographic stuff happening. So that's going to be one of the things that areas where you used to be able to have a lot of Catholic churches, aside from the question of the generation practicing less than the prior generation, you also have the fact that there just are fewer people and they're living in new places. So there's going to be a lot of movement in terms of churches. And
Except the number of Catholics in the United States has actually increased since the 70s.
Yeah.
Because of immigration.
Yes.
Because of immigration. Even so in that time, when we've gone from something like 50,000 to 70,000, or 50 million to 70 million Catholics, or whatever it is, the drop in the number of Catholic marriages is
right. There's a drop in real terms.
Disproportionate to the increase, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah.
It's not just that it's not keeping pace. You actually have a real decline.
Yeah.
But
So,
even if there were the exact same,
right.
You should
you
have.
Said it.
So Chris's thing is that the churches will continue to get smaller. Your view is?
Benedict's prediction was a smaller and purer church, meaning a smaller church, but the people who are in it are more aware of why they're Catholic and are more passionate about being Catholic.
Right.
I'm inclined towards that. And I would give this example. I knew someone who was a Catholic who had gone to seminary in the 1970s, and I was not born then. I knew him later in life. and his views were, to put it nicely, heterodox, but he still cared a lot about being Catholic. But he had such a strange idea about things like the resurrection that I remember thinking, if I believed what you believed, I wouldn't call myself a Christian. I wouldn't be a Catholic. And I think a lot of what you're seeing is that young people who believe there wasn't a real resurrection would no longer have the confusion in calling themselves atheists, agnostics.
Yeah, they just move out.
Right,
Yeah,
right. And this is in some ways the perverse loss of Catholic culture. That the generation, like the baby boom generation, even if you lost the faith, you were so deeply formed by Catholicism that you still considered yourself Catholic. Without that, then the people who consider themselves Catholic would be those who really believe.
All right, so I'll come back and let you know what our listeners said was going to happen in the Catholic Church over the next 10 years. It's the Flannel Panel, Catholic Answers Live, right back. This year, the Catholic Answers Conference turns its attention to the question of God in an age of unbelief. Join us September 21st through 24th in San Diego for I Believe in God, featuring very special guest Scott Hahn and an all-star lineup of speakers. Spend 4 fun days with your favorite Catholic Answers apologists. Seats are still available, but going fast. Use promo code EARLY to save $50 and register today at CatholicAnswersConference.com.
If you're not a Bible scholar, the full message of how the Sunday Mass readings fit together can be tough to comprehend. Apologist Carlo Broussard is here to help. Join Carlo every Friday for the Sunday Catholic Word podcast. In each episode, he unpacks the scripture readings for that Sunday and brings them all together so you can better understand and defend the faith. Visit SundayCatholicWord.com to subscribe. That's SundayCatholicWord.com.
Want to know more about the origins of the Catholic Church? Joe Heschmeyer explores the beginnings of Christianity. In the early church was the Catholic Church. Joe digs deep into the words and actions of those who lived right after the apostles to refute anti-Catholic claims of how the faith was lived back then. Order your copy of The Early Church Was the Catholic Church today at shop.catholic.com or get it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
As Catholic apologetics have gotten stronger, Protestant responses have gotten stronger as well. And now they have their own answers to rebut the standard Catholic proofs. Don't fret, we've got you covered. In his new book, Meeting the Protestant Response, apologist Carlo Broussard gives well-reasoned biblical answers to Protestant comebacks. Order your copy of Meeting the Protestant Response today at shop.catholic.com or ask for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you. Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. Chris Check here with us. Joe Heschmeyer here with us. And it's the Flannel Panel, where we talk about the news of the day from a Catholic perspective. And we polled twice a year now. We used to do it once a year, but I got excited, and now we do it twice a year. We poll our listeners, except for the ones whose first name starts with the letter P. Everybody else gets polled, and we ask them about what they think of the news of the day and what they think is coming down the pike and what they think of what just happened. And this one was, what do you think is the most likely outcome? No. What do you think over the next 10 years? What do you expect for a Catholic Church? And the answers were, it will experience revival and growth, it will get smaller and lose public stature, it will muddle through just as it has been, or none of these. None of these came in at 11%.
What were the options they were missing?
Maybe they thought explosive growth of unimaginable power. Maybe they thought Jesus will come back and
second coming.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I would say, well, I don't know. It'll muddle through just as it has been. That was a little less than 25%. A little less than a quarter of our listeners thought that. It will get smaller and lose public stature, 30%. And it will experience revival and growth, 35%. Wow. Our listeners are nothing if not chipper.
Yeah, I think if you want to turn that prediction into a reality, get to work.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, and I'm sure. You know what?
Get married and have children.
That's one way.
Yep.
That is a deep investment in the formation. You can also just have conversations about God with strangers.
Yeah, you could go
to
be
the seminary.
A religious woman. We need about 1 million more women religious. You could be a man religious. We need about 900,000 more.
Where are you getting these numbers?
This is scientific calculations.
It's from the Synod.
I've made.
It's the working document.
The Synod.
All right, so I'm happy to hear that there's more than a third of our listeners think that the church is going to experience exciting revival and growth over the next 10 years.
I don't want to be mean to a third of our listeners. I don't share the excitement about that, and the reason I don't is because a lot of the decline of the church has been while we've trumpeted how well we're doing. And it's hard seeing the decline on the ground while we're like, things are going really well. And it's like, no. And the first way we can address the fact that things aren't going really well is to stop pretending and say things need to change and really dramatically. I don't mean like we need women priests. I mean like we need to rediscover our love for Jesus Christ.
I've been reading Larry Chapp's wonderful book, which I recommend. I really do recommend it. It's a lovely book called.
He is a good chap.
He's a lovely chap. Confession of a Catholic Worker. And this is the central point that he makes, and he does it with such. I told him, I said, "You're a pugilistic writer," and he said, "Yeah, I am." But he does it with such fisticuffs. He makes the point. It's about radical connection to the person of Jesus Christ, and if you can do that and live out of that radical connection to the person of Jesus Christ, don't worry about anything else. Don't have any. You don't need other plan or program. It's not that you don't. We don't need leaders and structures and all that, but it's just that's the thing. That's the key thing.
Yeah.
Radical connection to the person of Jesus Christ, and a lot of problems work their way out.
Yeah, there are a lot of Catholic writers who I agree with maybe 80% of what they say, but the ones that I really like are the ones who have that, where they get the Jesus part.
Yeah, right.
Because you can find writers, frankly, in all factions or sides within the church who it's like, well, no, it just sounds like you're describing a program or a political agenda or a party. And it's like, where's Jesus?
Yeah.
It's like, where's the actual Jesus?
That's the way I feel about most documents from the USCCB.
So
any chance we can get Jesus mentioned in here? Any chance we can get that on the agenda?
I just wonder if the answers to this particular question reflect, not unlike what I was observing earlier, and maybe I'm wrong, a kind of a cultivated optimism that we're reluctant to acknowledge that things are bad. And so we're going to say, oh no, it's the springtime of evangelization. Things are getting better.
Yeah.
And the data, the evidence isn't there.
No. Could I give you an example of that in our secular life? That many people,
we call it the golden years when we're about to die. Is that what you were going to say?
No. That there's many people, despite the fact that there are thousands of nuclear and thermonuclear weapons on the planet, who think that's never going to happen. What planet are you living on? That's definitely going to happen. If we don't get rid of them or do something, there's never been a weapon that just sat around for hundreds of years and nobody used it. It's going to happen. You have to wake up to the fact that there's really bad things in this world, and we're not getting away from them.
I think that we in America are distracted by still the level of material comfort that all of us enjoy, and we equate in our subconscious, or maybe if you're a disciple of the Acton Institute, then you equate in your conscience material success and prosperity and comfort with things are great.
Yeah, but I
today's
good dig at
reading.
the Acton Institute, but
what's that?
It was a good dig at the Acton Institute, but that's right. Who are there's these maniacs who write articles who say things have never been better. What are you talking about?
You have a choice of so many different kinds of minivans.
Yeah, it's true that things have never been better when you go to the emergency room, and that's not nothing. That's important, but that is not the health of a civilization. That is not something that's going to mean that we're still going to be here 200 years from now.
Yeah. I was reminded of today's first reading, Genesis 13. It's about Abraham and Lot. And Lot has a lot of stuff. And we're told Lot, who went with Abraham, also had flocks and herds and tents. So the land could not support them if they stayed together. Their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And then it says, Yeah, well, just that line, actually.
Isn't that a beautiful line?
Yeah, their
It's with
possessions were
so
so
many
great they could
levels of
not dwell.
meaning on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That here are the things they thought would make them happy. And it leads them to a broken family. And it leads Lot into this weird lifestyle in Sodom and Gomorrah, where he's not personally affected, but he's gone into the city and he's surrounded by this toxic culture.
And his wife, Salty.
Ooh,
That's what I call
I
it.
see what you did there. And so what I take from that is that we're not so different. And look, and that's with Abraham being a good guy.
Yeah, that's
Abraham's
a very,
our father
very
in faith.
good.
That we are not immune from this lie that this will be the thing that keeps us happy. This is what keeps us together. It breaks his family apart. It nearly gets Lot killed. It gets his wife killed. And it just leads to the downfall in a real way of the good thing they have going. And so we can become too complacent. You were talking about the church in Germany. And I think we see this pattern over and over and over again, that we can become comfortable and complacent. And then you look at places where the church is poor, and it's often doing great.
I want to say, in addition to comfortable and complacent, anesthetized.
Yes.
I mean, we whether
Quite intentionally.
Quite
intentionally
You get home and flip on Netflix. Why? To anesthetize yourself.
Yes.
That is why you do it.
Like it's like that joke about the people who watch Netflix, but they never watch a show. They just scroll from show to show for hours.
Yep.
You're paralyzed by the amount of entertainment, and so you never actually are entertained.
I scroll through the Google News or doom scroll or whatever it is, so I don't have to have that moment when I am being quiet and thinking about the state of my interior life.
I got to do the last three questions.
I got to tell you a Pieper quote before you do, though.
Okay.
He says, a break in one's work, whether of an hour or a day or a week, is still part of the world of work. It is a link in the chain of utilitarian functions. The pause is made for the sake of work and in order to work. And a man is not only refreshed from work, but for work.
Oh, that is
leisure.
brutal. That is brutal. And that's the modern world. That's the world we live in. Yeah. Right. It's like what you always say about the modern world can't understand a woman religious because it always has to give
She's
her a
not
job
practical.
or a function. There's no practical use for
she's
her.
not practical.
And not just the
if
modern
she
world.
prays.
I mean, the bishops, when women religious came over, there were droves of contemplative women religious who came to the U.S. and we said, well, you're going into the school now.
Yes,
and we don't care the vows you made. And
There's nobody more utilitarian than a Catholic bishop.
It was unfortunately that was often the case. I mean, this is the 19th century. It's easy to have this kind of nostalgic, once upon a time vision, but that was not good for those women or for the students they were teaching, frankly.
No, that's right. All right. The last three are rates. We asked people to rate the leadership of Pope Francis, rate the leadership of the Catholic bishops, and rate the work of Catholic media.
You're going to get us an apostolic visitation if you're not careful.
No, I'm not. It's not all bad. You just assume it's all bad news. It's not all bad news. But I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break. We'll just do those three on the last segment of the flannel panel, right back after this.
Hang on. Catholic Answers Live will return in a moment.
In Morse code, the sequence SOS is a distress call. It's been said that it stands for Save Our Souls. Well, right now our world is in big trouble, and we're putting out an SOS call for help. Will you answer that call? St. Paul Street Evangelization, a Catholic nonprofit, has hundreds of teams who share the good news with souls who don't know Jesus. Catholic Answers is supported in part by St. Paul Street Evangelization. Visit streetevangelization.com to get involved.
EWTN offers listeners and viewers the daily readings to enable you to accompany the Mass of the day. Our Catholic daily readings include the readings of the day, along with online videos. It's a great resource for all who desire to live a life of faith that is pleasing to our Lord. Visit EWTN.com and click Catholicism. EWTN, the Global Catholic Network.
Welcome back. Catholic Answers Live. Chris Check, Joe Heschmeyer, Cy Kellett, that's us. We're the flannel panel. And we all wear flannel and we talk about the news of the world from a Catholic perspective. And we have...
It's a Queen album.
Oh, yeah. That's
News
right.
of the
News
World.
of the World. That's a scary cover on
It
that
is,
album.
yeah.
Oh, it's so scary. Look it up, Joe. It's scary.
I might have
Used to frighten me as a child. Okay, so we have lots of lovely people who call this show. And among the loveliest is a young lady who
She's
lives
in the top 2 of the loveliest.
She's the top 2 of the best heart and sharpest minds that call us is Ava in Ontario, California. She lives in Ontario, California, and we really like her a lot. And wait, excuse me, not Ontario, California.
Ontario, Canada.
Oh, she lives in Ontario, Canada. That's right. My mistake. She lives in Ontario, Canada.
Which is it?
My bad. No.
Because if it's Ontario, California, you should come visit us, Ava. You're not very
she
far
lives in
away.
Ontario, Canada.
Oh, okay.
I was just teasing her because I messed her up a couple times on that. And her lovely father, Stephen, who I think is a gem of a guy because he called us to tell us today Ava turns 16. So
glory.
the flannel panel would like to wish Ava a happy birthday and just tell you we love it when you call, Ava. Thank you.
Ava, on your 16th birthday, did your parents get you like a Stingray or something, or or a Mustang?
They got her this. They got her a happy birthday
I
for
hope
the
they
flannel
got her
panel.
a big fast car.
Yes, right.
Right for your 16th
We
birthday.
were just talking about material possessions as the key to happiness.
Ava, I want you to stand next to that Mustang that your parents got you and take a selfie and post it on your Insta.
Because that's what life is about,
on your
Ava.
Instapin.
Yeah. Well, I'm genuinely impressed. You know the word selfie.
Tell you what, you
Joe
come
Hesmeyer.
to Rome with us, and I'll take a selfie with you.
Did you want to say anything?
No.
You didn't want to say happy birthday to Ava?
Happy birthday.
Or did you already say it?
Happy birthday. I was the one who told you to tell her happy birthday.
Yes,
I feel
you
like
were.
I was behind the scenes pushing for your birthday greetings, Ava.
Right,
So
Ava. And you know what? You have
I was
that.
going to let them cloud themselves in glory.
When you call, you have that spirit of charity, and your questions are always clear. And Chris always stresses to us when you're on the radio, clarity and charity. And so you have exemplified those, Ava.
Ava, tell your parents you want them to send you to the Catholic Answers Conference for your birthday.
In your new Mustang.
CatholicAnswersConference.com.
So she lives in Canada, is what you're saying.
We have Canada.
Enjoy the health care, Ava. Enjoy the health.
All the money you were going to spend on hospitals, you can send yourself to Rome.
We had a Canadian priest who's actually from North Carolina.
Oh, Father Michael was
Say
here
mass
today.
for us today here.
Yeah.
Offer the Holy
I
Sacrament.
don't know your geography, but I think that's part of the U.S.
No, he's in Canada now.
He is
I know.
he's with the Oratory in Toronto. Great priest, Father Michael Eads.
All right, so what do you think our listeners thought about the leadership of Pope Francis? How would you rate the leadership of Pope Francis? Happy with it? Confused by it? Unhappy with it? Mixed? What do you think? And you guys got to be kind of quick on these.
Okay,
we're running
I'm
towards the
gonna
end.
I'm gonna say confused by it, but there might be a mix where it's confused and angry.
Okay. The mix is confused and angry. All right, what do you think?
It's confusing. Of course it is.
All right. This was about feelings, and the smallest group said happy with it, 16%. The second smallest group said unhappy with it, and that was 21%. And the next group was confused at 28%. And most people gave Pope Francis mixed reviews at 35%. I should really have explain your answer on this one. It would have been nice to have more data on this. I didn't realize that.
There are times where he says brilliant things, like especially in his homilies.
Wonderful things.
And
yeah.
so there are times where I'm very confused by something he said. There's times where I'm frustrated by it. There are times where I'm really moved and wowed by it. So
yeah.
I think mixed is fair, frankly.
But frankly, almost every pope should get a mix.
Yeah, it's true.
There's a few that you
read the passages in Laudato Si on technology.
Yeah, they're very
superb.
good. They're very good.
You can get it online.
Okay. How would you rate the leadership of the Catholic bishops? I know we have some Catholic bishops listening. Here is your leadership being rated. Are you happy with it? Are you confused by it? Are you unhappy with it? Or do you feel mixed? What do you think our listeners will say?
I don't think it's a monolith. I mean, I guess the USCCB is kind of a monolith, but I'm very impressed with the leadership of Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone in San Francisco. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, there are a lot of good bishops.
Bishop
I'm reminded of
Petrocchi
the
in
fact
Springfield,
that
Illinois.
Americans regularly say Congress is terrible and then re-elect their own congressman.
Yeah.
And
right.
so when you're talking about a broad, faceless organization, it's easy to be negative on it. When you think about the particular characters, especially the ones you know well, they're often better than the sort of stereotype. So I imagine people, when surveyed, would say negative things about the bishops, but I actually think that's probably a little harsher than
personally, I would say mostly negative things about the bishops, but it has not so much to do with the bishops as the fact that I think their job is impossible, and I think most of them are proving that. And I think the job is impossible because dioceses are too big. I just don't think we should have dioceses as big as they are.
I literally was emailing a guy about that today. He was saying,
Was it the Pope? Because that's who you need to email
No,
about
he
that.
was-
All right, there's nobody that could do anything about it except the Pope.
I wasn't trying to fix it. He was writing to me saying, I read Pope Peter and the need for a bishop in the diocese. And in my diocese, I don't ever see my bishop.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, in the early church, these dioceses were a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the thing that people are annoyed by and frustrated by is American dioceses historically have been giant, even compared to European ones, certainly compared to the early church.
Right.
Because these were frontiers and this was a Protestant country. So you didn't have a huge Catholic population. But now you do, and you need small dioceses.
I refer people to either today or yesterday's Pillar. We are at we're about to see in 23, 24, and 25 more bishops coming of age since Pope Paul VI.
Coming of retirement.
Yeah.
Not like they're being
They
bar
can drink
mitzvah
now.
or something.
Paul VI instituted the 75-year mandatory retirement. That's a fairly new thing. Interestingly, not for the Bishop of Rome, but for everyone else.
Yeah.
In any case, we're more than ever at retirement age than in the history of the church since that.
So that's going to be an interesting time. That's going to be
well,
a big
and
shift.
there are already vacancies in the United States, and the nuncio is having trouble filling them. And
Really?
yes, and I don't have the exact number, but it's got to be close to 15 or 20.
Oh, if there were smaller dioceses, frankly, as paradoxical as it
More-
is, it'd be
more
easier
men.
to fill.
They would.
because
Yes, they would.
It's an overwhelming job. Who
It
would
is.
want to be in charge
Well,
of?
there are people who are saying no.
Right. Oh, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it was, because a lot of priests would be happy to be pastor of their church. They would
Yeah.
not be happy to be bishop of their diocese if,
Right.
if they know what.
Let me
if they're
just say
saying.
something too. If you're a very fine priest and you don't have any kind of criminal record that's going to come out later, try not to say no. When the Pope calls you, it's hard, the life of a bishop, I'm sure, but try not to say no. Try to say yes. All right, here's what our listeners said. Confused by the leadership of the bishops, 13.5%. Happy with it, 15%. Unhappy with it, 22%, and mixed, 50%.
Okay,
You know,
that's
this
fair. I'll
kind of
give you that.
tracks with that survey that Catholic University did of clergy,
Yes.
which actually is even a little more frightening than the Catholic Answers
They
Radio.
really don't like their bishops, a lot of them.
Well, the question was, do you regard your bishop as a father?
Yeah.
Do you think he would have your back? And we're talking very low percentages answered in the affirmative.
Yeah.
If I were an ordinary, that would give me pause, because the one thing a bishop is supposed to do is be a father to
Right.
his clergy.
Right.
Number
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah, I mean, Archbishop Naumann regularly says that his two legacies will be the churches he builds and the men he ordains.
Yep.
And that is a good, clear-sighted mission where he's not getting bogged down in,
But like
in
say
secondary
that,
and tertiary things.
Say that man has a problem. You know, he falls. He has an addiction problem.
Yeah.
The bishop really is to be his father and to help, not just to abandon him and give him a one strike or something like that.
I mean,
Although
he
some
may,
things
you may
get a
have
one
to
strike
pull him
on.
out of ministry forever,
Yeah.
but you can still be a father to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. But
You
and
know,
it would be
you-
much easier if he knew him.
Right.
And a lot of these bishops, it's not their fault. I'm not saying that the Archbishop of Chicago or New York City or something, that it's their fault that they don't know their priest, but they should not be leading local churches that are bigger than the entire church that the first 10 popes ruled over.
Yeah.
And that's the case. I mean, some of these have more Catholics in them than the entire early church had in it for its first
true.
200 years. All right. How would you rate the work of Catholic media? We come to the nub now. How would you rate the work of Catholic
Is
media?
flawless an option?
Flawless was not one. See, this is where I should have consulted you
Yeah.
before I did this, Joe. Happy
Top
with it?
two best media.
Happy with it? Confused by it? Unhappy with it? Mixed? First of all, I want to know what you would say. What do you think
I
about
would
that?
absolutely say mixed. There's a huge. I mean, when we say Catholic media,
That's what
you
I
can
mean.
What
mean
do we
everything
mean?
from us to National Catholic Register, National Catholic Reporter, a bunch of YouTube personalities.
Right.
To Taylor Marshall and all
Right.
the podcasters and all that. To
I couldn't imagine one well-functioning person being happy with all of that, because those different parts are often at war with one another.
Yeah.
And so I
Right.
could see you saying everything is bad. I couldn't imagine a person who's surveying the whole scene and saying, yeah, this looks good.
I keep bringing up the Pillar, and they have not paid for this ad time. Oh, I should probably send them a bill. But I do think this is a significant development in Catholic media. Yeah. That thing is now a year old, maybe more.
I think more than a year old.
More than a year old, and the quality of journalism prior to the Pillar was not available in the English language.
That's true.
That those guys are providing. So in that sense, I think and by the way, the even-handedness of it, the lack of polemics, and the love of Jesus Christ that informs the work that they do.
Yeah, they're trying to do real good reporting and trying to just say
for the good of the church.
Facts. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
It's something that is badly needed, especially with was it not Catholic News Agency? Was it Catholic? Which was the USCCB owned one that is maybe CNS, Catholic News Service?
Oh, that's the
shut
one out
down.
of business.
So,
Yeah.
Right. And so even more it's needed now.
Well,
By the way, Si,
OSV
I'm glad you didn't make a Lot's wife joke about Pillar.
Oh, the Pillar. I could have made a Lot's wife joke.
But just a second, hasn't OSV purchased?
Oh, maybe they have. Maybe I've
Catholic News
Service?
I
don't
get
know.
them confused.
I think so.
Yeah.
There was certainly at least a period where there were fewer Catholic news outlets trying to just do objective news and not trying to give an angle.
Yeah.
I can tell you 30 years in Catholic media as my main job, and the landscape is much more interesting today than it was 30 years ago.
Agreed.
You can get much better work for a whole variety of reasons, probably because there's so many people involved in it now, but also much worse stuff than stuff that's really damaging, stuff where you see wolves in sheep's clothing, like that where people coming off as more Catholic than anybody, and what they're really doing is, to borrow Chris's term, disedifying people and damaging their faith.
Some of this is universal, if I may. Todd Aglioloro, our editor here,
no, he's not a bad guy.
No, he's let's just say he has these exact same critiques about cars. He said there used to be 3.5 car magazines. And now there's a million YouTube channels, and some of them are very good, and some of them are horrible. Yeah. And it allows more room for mediocrity. I know nothing about cars, but it does seem
good for you, Joe.
I know the color usually, but it does seem like this is partly just a reflection of the media landscape in general.
I'm going to say the kinds of things that interest me are more readily and widely available.
Yes,
that's right.
Than ever. Right. Guys like Larry Chapp, guys like the folks at New Polity magazine, The Lamp is a brilliant new Catholic magazine.
But then there's things that have been around for a long time. Like I really enjoy the National Catholic Register. I think they're doing very, very good work,
and have been for a long time.
It's been a long time that they've been doing very. And even the stuff that I don't agree with, like the often I will not agree with much that's in the National Catholic Reporter, but they have done some very fine reporting that was really important. And I think what a lot of other Catholic media outlets learned from them was there comes a time when you have to be critical. You have to say, this Vos Estes, complaint it has to be reported. It can't just be glossed. So I do think that there's, anyways, the variety is very.
I'm sad about the loss of local Catholic media.
Though that's definitely happened. Yeah. How would you rate the work of Catholic media? The lowest was unhappy with it.
Good.
At 2.67%. Confused by it was next at 3%. Mixed was 28%, and happy with it was 66.42%. And I think that's just people being nice to us.
I think if you were to send out a question that says, "Do you like answering surveys?" you'd probably also get a very high percentage. But that might be a methodological error.
Yeah, right. Oh, hey, the Catholic Answers Flannel Panel. That's us. We're going to Rome November 8th. November 9th through the 18th. We really love it if you'd come. Go to CatholicAnswersPilgrimage.com. There are spots left, but we decided to do this flash sale and just get it done, and we feel like this will do it. So you got till July 11th to get the flash sale price. It's $300 off whatever you see as the advertised price of whether you include airfare or whether you go with the no airfare option. Just take $300 off that, and that's what you get if you are signed up by July 11th. CatholicAnswersPilgrimage.com. Joe will give talks. Chris is one of the most extraordinary tour guides that you will ever. It's just fun to go to Rome with Chris. And Chris also has this other thing where he insists on really good food and really good wine.
And so I will bring his flannels.
And I'm going to bring my flannels with me. If not, I'll buy some of those legendary Italian flannels.
Flanello.
Yes. Flanello. Flanello, por favor. Joe Heschmeyer, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Congratulations on your magnificent new book, The Eucharist is Really Jesus, How Christ's Body and Blood Are the Key to Everything We Believe. You're supposed to say thank you.
Yes, thank you. I was grabbing the book to hold up to satisfy the
Chris
video.
Check,
folks.
president of Catholic Answers, thank you. Another 6 months. You did not fire me. I'm deeply grateful.
You
Thank
guys are
Chris.
great, and I give thanks and praise to God that you're here on the Catholic Answers team.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That does it for us. We'll see you tomorrow, God willing, right here on Catholic Answers Live.